Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I realize I haven't been here for like 3 weeks. I had a lot going on. First of all, I went on a trip, which obviously this is what the episode's about. But when I came back, I got so ill. Like, I don't know what was going on in the European air, but I feel like I was getting sick and everybody was getting sick. So, like, towards the end of the trip, I came back and I was just literally on my deathbed for like 9 days. It was rough. But, anyways, hello everybody, and welcome back to Philline. I promise I'll be more consistent after this week's episode, just given the fact that one, I have time now, and two, I'm just so full of so many things to talk about. So, today's topic is going to be about my backpacking trip. And first of all, I've obviously known of the term backpacking, but there's so much that I didn't realize I had to prepare myself for, and so many things that if I could do it again, I think I would do some stuff a little bit differently, but nevertheless, it was beautiful, gorgeous. But yeah. But before I get into that, there's a lot of random stuff that I feel like has been happening for the past, I don't know, 3 weeks that I feel like are still important to talk about. And the first thing is, what the heck is going on in the East Coast and Canada? Like, for the past 3 weeks, we were getting random thunderstorms, random warnings, like tornado warnings, and it was just insanity. Like, I have never seen so many alerts on my phone. And even in Canada, you guys know that the fires are still happening. That's pretty insane to me. And believe it or not, it's still affecting the air. So, a little bit of a crisis here, but I feel like we just are trucking along. I do urge you guys, though, to stay educated and at least up to date with that stuff, because believe it or not, we're not far from where the fires are happening. So I don't know. I'm still shook that the first time this happened and the sky was yellow, all my coworkers were like, "Oh, this is just normal in California." I'm still shook about that. That should not be accepted whatsoever. And let's just keep watch. I hope that that's going to be over soon. So that's everything on the news side that I wanted to bring up. Let's talk about media right now, because wow, so many great things going on in music, movies, TV shows, like Barbenheimer. Anybody? Did you guys participate in the Barbenheimer tradition? Because that's going to be talked about for a long while. First of all, admittedly, I was not participating in that because I was on my deathbed, but I did watch Oppenheimer. Totally just an amazing movie. Christopher Nolan is a genius, and I absolutely loved that movie. And I mean, honestly, Christopher Nolan's movies are always good. My favorite so far is Inception. I literally could watch that movie 40 times and not get bored of it. But great movie. I heard the same about Barbie. I'm trying to avoid all the TikToks and all the videos about Barbie and just what's going on, but it's starting this whole new trend. I absolutely love it. And first of all, that Billie Eilish song in that movie is just heartbreaking. And I literally hate that TikTok tradition of, it starts with a picture of you as a kid and then it kind of zooms out to a picture of you currently, or a video of you currently. Why? Why do we do that to ourselves? That is so depressing. I feel like every time I find myself on that video, I'm just in tears, because why? I don't know. It's just things like that. I feel like it gives me such anxiety thinking about it. But nonetheless, just amazing things going on. And Travis Scott's album, fire. I absolutely loved it. I love the features. I love just in general the vibe, because I feel like Travis Scott's songs in the past were a little bit different than what I feel like this album is, but nonetheless, still super fun and some bangers for the gym. You know what I mean? Definitely check it out and let me know what you think of it. And in that same note with music, Post Malone came out with an album. I I don't know how to explain it. I'm still iffy about it. Maybe I need to listen to it a few more times, but I was getting really sad vibes from it. I felt like every song was trying to make me cry or feel sad about something. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I guess like the general chord progressions of all the songs, it's a lot slower, and I feel like it's very different from his usual like rock vibes. I know that was a while ago, and I know recently like his songs are definitely a little, a little bit more mellow, but I don't know. I'll give it a few more listens and see how I feel. And like so many other things have been happening. It is the 5-year anniversary of Swimming, Mac Miller's album, and I just find some sort of sad irony, honestly, because Angus Cloud just passed away, and he always reminded me of Mac Miller just because of how they look. Like, you could see the similarities. If you really put them, like, next to each other, you could see it. But, I don't know, like, I know I didn't know the guy, and I'm sure everyone listening can agree, too. Like, I didn't know him personally, or Mac Miller for that matter, but something about just how both of them passed away. Two very different stories, but I don't know, it just makes me so sad because I just feel like mental health is such a growing topic, and specifically for men, it's just not quite talked about as much as at least women's mental health, or honestly, just as much as the general topic of mental health. Like, we talk about how important it is to go to therapy and talk about our feelings and how important it is to communicate. But if you watch a few of Angus's videos, he does talk about like that he wasn't okay. And I feel like that was a call for help. And I don't know, it's just hard sometimes, especially seeing just like all of that going on and just understanding, and you kind of have compassion, right? Because his father passed away, and like I cannot even imagine what that would feel like. So I know everybody grieves in their own way, and obviously we have to remain respectful about the whole situation, but it hits me so differently. I just feel like it's just so sad, like so sad, because you just feel that pain. Like, you can almost understand what that feels like, because when you lose somebody, it's not a fun feeling. And I don't know. I just hope their family's doing okay. And especially because there were 2 losses, within each other. Definitely hope that their family's doing okay. So, yeah, a little bit of a sad few topics, but just wanted to get that out, and I really hope one day we get more in touch with, like, just generally men's mental health and how important it is. I feel like even just growing up and getting to know all of the guys around me, my fiance, my brother, even my close guy friends, like, I can see that it's difficult sometimes to open up about your feelings because it's just not 100% accepted right now in society. And not, when I say not accepted, I don't mean that people are like looking at you weird for, being a guy and talking about your feelings, but more around the stigma that they're not supposed to talk about their feelings or let things out. So it was very interesting, but yeah, I feel like that's going to be something super important to talk about in the future. So let's bring us back to what I was supposed to talk about, which is backpacking in Europe. And you guys, like, wow, there is not a trip, at least so far, that has humbled me like this Europe trip. Because let me tell you, it was fun, but oh my God, it was so hot. It was so crazy. At least the second part. So what I did was I went to Europe for 2 weeks. I'm only going to talk about the first week for this episode. I'm going to talk about the next week, which is the cruise. The first week we backpacked. Like, I love when people ask me the question, like, oh, where did you go in Europe? Everywhere. Like, I couldn't even tell you where I didn't stop. So that had its pros and cons. And I think, like, the overall learning lesson was that we planned a lot of stuff in advance, but we still didn't plan enough. And I think that just stems around the fact that, like, we assumed we were going to figure out transportation. And that's a horrible assumption. Definitely do not wait till you get there to try to figure out transportation, because that was like a hot mess. First of all, it costs so much to like travel between one country to another via train. So I didn't know that, and I probably messed up. I probably should have looked that up, but it cost, I don't remember exactly what two countries. Wait, I was looking at, I think Paris to Milan, I think. But that one way cost at least $100 one way. And I get it. Like, people probably don't do round trips because they probably are like moving from one country to the next. But damn, that was hella expensive. Like, that is way too much for the train. There's just no way. But anyways, we took a flight to London. Gorgeous, by the way. We went to London for the first day, and then we went to Brussels. In Brussels, we stayed at Brussels. We had an Airbnb for 3 nights, which was a whole nother story. I have to talk about that because, bruh. But we stayed at Brussels, right? And then we would go to Paris, then Amsterdam, and we rented a car to do that. So it was a little bit easier. I mean, granted, it was kind of a longer drive than you would, I guess, by train. I mean, it really depends, but it was definitely more affordable to rent a car and drive. So we did that. And then I think the last day we checked out of Brussels, then went to Venice for a little bit, and then we went to Milan. And bruh, doing all that in one day was a lot. I won't, lie to you. But to get to Venice, we took the plane. And then after that, we stayed in Bergamo, Italy, and then took I think it was a plane. Yeah, it was a plane. We took another plane to Athens the next day, and that was where like our cruise was. So that was pretty fun. All right, so I'm going to start with day one, and London was absolutely gorgeous. I will say that I was not expecting it to be cold. And mind you, it's July, obviously. And I was just not expecting it to be cold. Like, I definitely underpacked. And I'm going to give more background information on this. We packed based on the cruise because for the cruise, we were kind of like going for themed days. Like, for example, one day you would wear a beige top and any bottom. The next day you would wear a yellow top and any bottom. Then whatever day you would wear a blue and white combo outfit. So granted, we were backpacking, like I said. That was really challenging because, one, the backpacks don't really fit that much. Like, it looks big when you order it, and honestly, it's a lot bigger than I expected, but it still wasn't easy to like pack everything into just one bag. And we were lucky because my dad was able to add on like checked in bags, because you have to remember, for United and I think Delta, but for United, you could bring a carry-on and also a personal item. So we kind of took advantage of that, and we like, at least me, I put my clothes in one bag, my backpacking bag, and then I put like my toiletries and just kind of smaller stuff in a second backpack. Like, it was like a backpack. And that's kind of the look, bruh. Like, I had a huge, heavy, first of all, that shit was heavy, okay? You could get a backpack that has wheels. I don't know what was easier. Like, I was convinced a bag without wheels is probably easier, but now looking back at it, I'm not quite sure. Like, honestly, like lugging it around the trains when we had to, which wasn't that often, by the way, but still, it was like heavy, it was hot, and like not a good time to just like carry it. I had one backpack behind me, I had my other backpack in front of me, like in the reverse direction, so I looked like a fool, but it was fine because realistically, we only used the bags when like we were transporting from one country to the next, and it wasn't every time, right? Like for the flights where we had to go from one country to the next, obviously we had our bags, but when we had the Airbnb in Brussels, it wasn't that bad. So yeah, London was gorgeous. Definitely one of the colder countries. We got to see Big Ben. I took a picture in front of those typical photo booths, had fish and chips, and that was amazing. We went to the theater district, which is absolutely gorgeous. I totally recommend that. It was so cute. There was like this one area with a bunch of flags lying around. At the top, it was like a bunch of hanging flags, or banners, I should say. And there was stuff that said like more pride, more peace. It was just generally a good vibe. And it was kind of like an outdoor food court. And I remember the food there just being exquisite. Like, first of all, the food there is always good. But we went to a place that I think I had a steak, which was really good. And then after that, we kind of just continued walking around. A lot of our journey in this backpacking life was definitely mostly transporting around, but we did get to experience all the different kinds of transportation. The trains in London were pretty good. I mean, like, the system there is pretty robust. We took trains, we took buses. The buses were pretty interesting, and I think navigating around London was similarly like New York. So I think, like, in terms of going around, we were able to transport easily. We got to see Abbey Road, which was freaking amazing. We took these really cringe like videos of us crossing the street like the Beatles would, but core memory. It was really fun, and we kind of just kept walking around, honestly. Like, I think what my family does is kind of just take the day as it goes. So we got to see the London Bridge, like obviously the London Bridge in London, like who doesn't see that? And we took a bunch of pictures there. And then we also went to the Buckingham Palace, which was really nice too, just a good view. And then honestly, like after a day of walking and kind of just exploring, you're tired. It's like a good place to just like sit and bask in the weather, especially because, it was kind of like first of all, Europe is 6+ hours ahead of USA, New Jersey time. So, granted, I felt like I was, still 6 hours behind, and the sun, it goes down pretty late. Like, I think the sun went down at like 10 o'clock in some countries, which is crazy. So London was 6 hours ahead. And that was really nice too, because I felt like first of all, we landed like at like 10 in the morning, and it was like a full day we still had, which was really awesome. So we were able to kind of just make the most out of the day. And we had gelato, which was so good. The gelato there is just amazing. So highly recommend. And I absolutely just loved everything about it. So for London, at least, we did spend about a day and a half in London. So we were able to, on the 4th of July, of course, go to the British Museum. And that place was just gorgeous. I love going to museums in different countries and just basking in history and culture. It's just amazing. There was a lot of stuff that you would see at a normal museum, like historical things. You would see the Greek gods, the Roman gods and goddesses, everything about Egypt, different histories there. And I think it was just awesome. Very informative. Highly recommend. And to be honest, like, if we didn't have to take the train from London to Brussels that day, I think I would have totally been able to spend a lot of time in the museum. It was huge. Like, there was so much to see. But one thing I will say is that it was packed. It was definitely hard to walk around, and like, you almost feel rushed in that way. And I'm pretty sure it was also like just a lot of students too. So just keep that in mind, if you're considering going. But still, it was really fun to go there and actually just learn about history. I absolutely love going to museums. So, anyways, halfway through that day, 4th of July, we had to transport from London to Brussels, and it was via train. It wasn't that bad, actually, because we had already bought the tickets in advance. So we got to Brussels, and first of all, a fun fact about me, I love the French language. I've learned French since I was in like 6th grade. That was my language of choice. So I've been learning about French since I was in 6th grade. It was literally my dream to visit Paris. But let me tell you, Brussels, like, wow, it is gorgeous there. And one thing I will say is that in Brussels, like, nothing sleep. Like, you think the city that never sleeps, like, it's that times 10 because people are still awake by the time it's like 3 or 4. And mind you, it's a little shady at night sometimes, but definitely a good vibe. There were some nice hidden bars and just beautiful, like the architecture and just the roads. It was just gorgeous. So we got there and we went to get dinner at an Italian restaurant, but I think it was like Leon House, but in French. I can't pronounce it, but delicious. We had mussels. Well, I had mussels. My mussels were like in a garlic butter sauce. Oh my God. It was so good. And I cannot even explain how good it was. Now, a recurring theme in my Europe journey is that we didn't get to really see the nightlife and experience it. But Brussels was kind of like the rare exception. I would say to at least like go back and travel. I would at least stay in these places a little bit longer in terms of like nightlife. We did miss some of that. But in Brussels, highly recommend Delirium. That place is such a good vibe. First of all, the music there was so nice. It's kind of like it's more of a low-key bar, I would say. It's kind of like it's a bar where you kind of just chill and you listen to music and you vibe. So I thought that was really cool. A lot of bars in that area, just absolutely gorgeous. There were some really good beers. I can't remember well, I had apple cider, so whatever. Some people might not consider that an actual beer, but it was really good. Highly recommend. And just the overall aesthetic of everything, it's super unique, I would say. Just so fun. And then we just went to go see the Grand Place of Brussels. Grand Palace. Everything was in French, so that's the only way I can say. But the Great Palace in Brussels. And it was beautiful at night. Just absolutely gorgeous. And that was great. So we did that the 4th of July. Then for the 5th, we actually went to Paris. And what a dream. Like, I was living the dreams of my 6th grade self. Like, I told myself that before, it's kind of a extreme dream, and of course I wasn't leaning on any expectations of it, but I had told myself, I want to go to Europe before I get married. It's just something I wanted to get done. And the main reason why I said that is because, well, ironically, I'm planning a wedding, right? And it's super expensive, and just honestly, traveling in Europe is also expensive if you're not using the travel credit card hack, which, if you guys haven't heard yet, definitely go on my earlier episodes and listen to that because highly recommend. But I didn't use my travel points this time. I was trying to rack it up because I need as many points as possible for my honeymoon. So anyways, that's been my dream, and Paris was just absolutely gorgeous. The only thing was that day, it was kind of cloudy, and honestly, it was raining a little bit. So we tried to make the best out of it. And again, I was super underdressed, wearing a dress in the freezing cold. I was like, can there be some sunlight? So I stress to at least I brought a light windbreaker, but it doesn't match really with like half the shit I was wearing. So, just weird. But if you go to Paris in July, at least bring a light coat or a cardigan at least. So just be prepared, because like I feel like it was sunny, and then randomly out of nowhere it would start raining. So yeah, we got to see the Louvre, or the French would say, you got to use the French accent, the Louvre, you know. And we didn't get to go inside because there was a super long line. So another lesson is to book things in advance. Like if you 100% are definitely going to go to that place, book the tickets in advance because they book out. And like in Amsterdam, we were supposed to go to the Anne Frank house. And like when we went to buy tickets, it was like 3 months booked. So if you're planning to visit that place, definitely, just check in advance. I would say like try to book as many things in advance. But in a way, it was kind of like, I don't know, sometimes I don't like booking that far in advance because sometimes you want to take it by the day, right? Like maybe that day you decide you don't want to do it. And like, God forbid, it's something outside and then it's downpouring. You kind of like, I don't know, I feel like you kind of have to do an even mix of everything. So we went to that. We took cute pictures because, like I said, we were kind of, honestly, like we were going to Europe. So we were just like, you know what? Let's take advantage of it and take engagement pictures. So we took engagement pictures. So that was like really nice. Then we went to a really delicious crepe place. I wish I got the name of the crepe place. I actually think I do. Hold on. I have a picture. It was called Galette Cafe. Amazing. Totally recommend. They have savory crepes. They have sweet crepes. And they're surprisingly really filling. But it actually is like a #1 spot on TripAdvisor. And we just fell upon it. Like we didn't even plan to go there. So like I said, like have general ideas of where you want to go. But like sometimes you'll be surprised when you fall upon a really nice place and like it's amazing, And after that, we went to see the Eiffel Tower, and don't go as close as you can to the Eiffel Tower because the surrounding areas around the Eiffel Tower are like okay, but there is a spot that is quite farther. I couldn't exactly tell you how far away it is because we, again, like kind of took it by the hour. So I would say like a good distance is actually going farther away. There's a really pretty spot where you can take a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower and it's just like gorgeous. But when we were there up close, it was just amazing to like see it up close. I know it's just like a statue pretty much. And obviously like the Statue of Liberty is to New York. Like people living in France are just like, oh, the Eiffel Tower, no big deal. But still, I thought it was awesome. And I was just pleased with just the general weather there and the vibe. I love France. And I think that although Paris was nice, I would love to visit like Nice and kind of explore that area because I feel like the vibes are always a little bit different, Paris versus, the non-major like city towns. So I would love to go back and check that out. Then we went to see I'm going to mess this up because I can speak French. I can understand it, but I can't do it well. So it's called the Avenue des Champs-Élysées. So that was actually in a super popular scene in the most recent John Wick movie. And I was fangirling so hard. I was like, wait a dang minute. Like, I remember this from some movie. And my fiance Marcos and we realized, we're like, oh shit, like this is from the John Wick movie. Like we took a bunch of pictures and like I even pulled up the scene from John Wick because I was like, this is so cool. Like I can't believe we're here. And honestly, watch the John Wick movie because wow, that movie was insane. Like I just think it's so funny because he could get hurt a million times and he's totally fine. And I think in this movie specifically, they like overdid it, but it wasn't to the point where it was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous because like you're still in it, but it was still funny. So then after that, we went to what I mentioned earlier, a better spot to get like a better view of the Eiffel Tower. And that was honestly so worth it. Like we got lost, actually. We ended up in one. First of all, when we went to see the Avenue des Champs-Élysées, that was not our main like goal. We were supposed to just find a better view of the Eiffel Tower and we just like fell upon the area. So we're like, oh snap. So we took a picture and then yeah, that area that was a little bit closer to or a little bit farther to get a better view of the Eiffel Tower was just absolutely beautiful and just gorgeous, honestly. It was so, so great. So, yeah, that was great. And then okay, let's back it up a little bit. For getting from Brussels to Paris was a trip and a half because we ended up renting a car and our drive there was like, no joke, 4 hours. It took 4 hours. Like, craziness. So, like I said, a lot of our day was full of transportation, full of driving, train, buses, whatever, but still a great time. So, cue the next day. We also rented the car. We rented the car for the whole time we were in Brussels for the Airbnb. I still think that that was the better idea than the train because one, you could just leave and go at any time. And especially if you're visiting like a different country, you can at least, go and leave whenever. So that was cool. Then the next day was Amsterdam. And oh my God, like Brussels and Amsterdam are definitely in my top countries of this entire trip. Honestly, I can't even pick a favorite because each one had its own vibe. And I loved that because it was just so unique to its own area, right? So, Amsterdam, obviously, you think of the colors, it's bright, and there's just so many bars, and it's a party area, and just it was gorgeous. So, the first thing we did was go to, oh my God, I'm going to butcher it, Rick's Museum. I know the JKS is like Rick's Museum, but it was so nice. It was a museum and it was all about Dutch art and culture, and that is where the famous Van Gogh painting is. So, of course, we had to go and find it and explore it. So, that was kind of fun, and we were there for, again, like I said, if I had more time, I would have stayed there for a lot longer, but I think we got there a little bit late, and we kind of had to, like, rush. I don't remember if it was because it closed early but like I said, we were trying to go to the Anne Frank house and we couldn't because that was like all booked. So definitely if you're trying to go to a museum, book in advance. So yeah, that was fantastic. We spent quite a bit of time there and we just kept walking around. Amsterdam's just so beautiful in July. The weather was temperate, like I was wearing a beige shirt and cargo pants and it was comfortable. Just absolutely beautiful. Obviously took pictures there and it was just absolutely gorgeous. So did that and we just kept walking. Honestly, with Amsterdam, just walk around and explore. I totally we had almost no plans after that thing and I think it was just gorgeous, like amazing. We actually passed this beautiful bridge where there was a purple bike and on the floor it said love is a cure and I was like, oh my God, this is literally just gorgeous. It was such a great time. And one thing about Amsterdam is the nightlife. Again, we missed it, but we did pass. Well, my parents did because I was like, I'm not going around that area with my parents because it's weird. But there is a red light district. It's full of how do I explain? There's a lot of nightlife there, but also a lot of prostitutes. They kind of wait around, and there was a sex museum too. Like I said, maybe I'd visit there a different time without my parents, but a great time. It was just amazing. Like, you honestly can just walk wherever and end up somewhere good, like end up at a bar, end up at a restaurant, and just beautiful views. I will say though that for Amsterdam, I think you could be okay being there for just one full day, meaning morning, spend lunch there, dinner, overnight, and then leave. Because I think that it's such a small area, but I will say the trains and the train station in Amsterdam, wow, just absolutely gorgeous. Because we still have to take the trains to go around, and gorgeous. I think that Amsterdam had one of the cleanest train stations, just, comparing. And I will say that New York City does not compare. We definitely need to step our game up because that was something totally different. So that was day, I don't even know, but we went back to Brussels and that was the next day. We were going to Italy and we had to take a plane. So that was a whole hot mess in the morning. We had to drop off the rental car, go to the airport. I will say the airports are a lot smaller and a little bit more uncomfortable, I should say. We did take Ryanair and it was good. Like, don't get me wrong, it was fine, but it wasn't like completely comfortable sitting wise. I feel like I was like in a cramped space, and even the food option, they didn't have, first of all, like, you know how in United, if you take a long flight, they go around like giving food, right? Bruh, this plane was like going around with perfumes to buy. And I'm like, I want a snack. I don't want this. I don't want perfume. Like, but, anyways, I would say if you have something bigger than honestly like a duffel bag, definitely pay the extra to check your bag in because there's not much space. I don't even think that the plane, I'm thinking, no, it didn't even have the overhead compartment where you could put your bags. So that's one thing, if you're thinking about traveling, like definitely checking your bag. And it's not that much extra either. So highly recommend. So this day was a little bit crazy, and no shade on my dad. I know he's not going to listen to this, but no shade on my dad, but he wanted to visit Venice and Milan in one day. And I was like, that's going to be insanity. And lo and behold, I was right. Mind you, absolutely gorgeous. All of these places. This is where, by the way, this is where it started getting uncomfortably hot, like painfully hot. And a little backstory, I don't know what was going on with me with the heat. I think I was getting sick, but towards the end of this whole week into the cruise, I was feeling on and off. There was something, I don't know how to explain, but like I was feeling it. Like I had a headache all the time. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I think it was heat exhaustion, but I'm not quite sure, to be honest. So we went to Venice actually, and we had to put our stuff in storage. And luckily, I think backpacking obviously is something very popular in Europe. So there's a lot of places, actually, surprisingly, where you can leave your luggage and, you just have to pay for it. But obviously, like, pick the ones that you can trust. You know what I mean? So did that, and we left our luggage there in Venice. Well, first of all, it's a whole process to get there. Like, we had to get to Venice, drop off our bags, and then to actually get into Venice, there's like a boat you had to take, a water taxi. So I'm telling this to you guys, so just be prepared, like a lot of commuting. But we took a water taxi to get to Venice. Absolutely gorgeous. You see the gondolas, the bridges, the just beauty of the architecture there. It's something just you don't see around in at least the East Coast where I live. So it's just like so new and so beautiful. I loved it. We went to St. Mark's Square, and that was like gorgeous. There was a huge I guess building, church. I'm not sure how to explain exactly the St. Mark's Square. There's just a lot. There's a lot there. A lot of views, a lot of food. And we had pizza, of course. Had to try the pizza, of course. And we snacked there and just honestly explored. That was for pretty much the half of the day because we couldn't really stay there the whole day. Like I said, we had to go to Milan and then Bergamo because our hotel was in Bergamo. So that was interesting. And when we went to Milan, we ended up going to this beautiful building. I wish I tagged it. I wish I knew what it was, but it's just gorgeous over there. The general views, I was totally in love. And we went to the theater of Dionysus. Can't pronounce it. Across from it is the love statue. I'm not going to say nothing else. It was funny. And if you are there somewhere, check it out and you'll chuckle a little bit because it's nicknamed the Statue of Love. But is it love? You'll see. Just go and visit it. So that was the majority of my trip. And we ended it with going to Athens. We took the train, I believe. No, we took another flight. I'm sorry. I'm literally staring at my itinerary. There was so much going on that I forget. But we took another flight. And one thing I will say about the Airbnb experience is when you are booking with booking.com, please read the reviews. I will just say that because some pictures look nice, but realistically, it's not. We had a kind of horrible experience in Brussels, which is our Airbnb. It was just like not expected. It just felt like you could feel icky in it. But our Bergamo one was absolutely beautiful. So I wish we stayed there a little bit, but it was nice there. And then we took the plane to Athens. And I cannot wait for my next episode when I talk about the cruise because, wow, like, if I actually, I said it earlier that I can't pick my favorite country, but Greece by far is just, it's something else. I think everyone there is so friendly, so welcoming. I feel like the lifestyle and just the culture there is just it's so delved in the arts, in music, in just quality time with everyone around you that I don't know, it just felt so nice and relaxing and hot. It was so hot. But yeah, Athens. So we got to Athens and we got an Airbnb that I actually really liked. It was kind of like in the main town area. It was beautiful, I would say. And then we went to visit Acropolis, of course. We can't forget about Acropolis, which was absolutely beautiful. You got to see a lot of the history and you got to see just how the architecture was back in the day. And I think it's such a good sight to see. Absolutely gorgeous. And then we were waiting for our Airbnb in Athens. So the thing also with booking.com, it's kind of, you have to pay attention to the check-in time. Just make sure you know, because we didn't and we ended up having to carry our bags everywhere. But besides the point, we went to Acropolis later in the evening. But during the day, we found this local Greek restaurant. Oh my God, it was so good. I cannot even stress, that was one of the greatest foods I've ever had. And I wish I wrote down the place. I totally forgot, but it was like a small mom and pop place. So good. I love Greek food. I love that you get unhealthy, healthy, and in between at the same time because we got a chicken gyro. Yes, it's pronounced gyro, not gyro. I think there's like a little roll to it too because we asked, we were like, what's the right way to say it? But we did get a chicken gyro and sometimes you can get it in sandwich form with the pita, but I got it just kind of like an undone pita. There was the chicken gyro, there was the pita bread, and a little bit of salad on the side, like onion, tomato, and fries, and the tzatziki sauce. Oh my God. Wow. I absolutely love Greek food, and I would go back just for the food because it was fire. And then in the evening time, after Acropolis, we just went to eat at I guess, I don't know how to explain the food. It was Greek food. I did have a Greek salad, I think, at the time. And it was really, really good. It's right by Acropolis. When you leave Acropolis, there's a whole strip of restaurants and shops. And, the shops too. The clothes are so good, but so expensive. If you're trying to buy some stuff, just letting y'all know. And that is it. I mean, that was the first half of our entire trip. And like I said, a lot of stuff, I would say museums especially, book them in advance if you want to go to them because they do book out. But honestly, everything else, you can take it day by day and just explore the area because it's kind of like you plan to go places, but then you don't really realize that some of the places are far away from each other. The distance of one restaurant was far from the Eiffel Tower, for example. But I would say that for a backpacking trip like this, if I could go back in time, I would either, one or the other, decrease the amount of countries I visited because you miss the nightlife, and decrease it and basically stay at a place for 2 days rather than 1 day or even half a day because some parts of the day we were not in the same town. We were in 3 different towns during that trip around Italy. But I would say that, and don't underestimate the commute time if you're trying to backpack because that took up a lot of our time. I would say that we should have anticipated that better And I don't know if, again, like I said, the rental car was definitely the better idea, because if you're going to like commute between each country, it's expensive. There are monthly passes, or like I think it was a monthly pass, but there is something that's kind of like a bulk pass where like for 4 days, if you're traveling in between countries, you can like buy it, but it still didn't compare to how much it costs to rent a car. I will say that, at least for the most part, the roads were not bad. Like traveling to Amsterdam to Paris, and there are a lot of parking garages. It gets a little bit tight when you get around to like Paris, I would say, especially when you're like closer to the city. For Paris, I would say drive half the commute, like 2 hours, and then take the train, because I think that like the parking might have been better. We did find stuff, but like I said, it's a little bit tricky to like navigate around. But yeah, I generally, it was like a beautiful experience. I would not trade that vacation for the whole wide world. And I think I mentioned to you guys before, I don't remember, but when I first had a job, I basically passed on my family's Europe trip. They already went there twice um, after this time. And I regretted it so much. And just like, they had more time in Greece. And I think, again, I would spend more time in Greece, but it was just gorgeous. I would 100% go back, spend more time in Italy, honestly, because we weren't there that long, and get to experience the nightlife. So that's what I would say. And I guess in terms of backpacking, it wasn't that bad, I would say. I think that just plan ahead. Like, if I could, because I had to plan the outfits for the cruise, it was like a totally different experience. If I didn't have to plan the outfits, I would pack less. And what we did was, in our last Airbnb right before the cruise, there was actually a washing machine in this cruise. So, oh no, not the cruise, sorry, the Airbnb. So that's what we kind of took advantage of. We were able to do our laundry, but TBH, that was kind of interesting too. Like, the Airbnb had a washing machine, but it was slow. We didn't realize there was like a speed wash setting until like later on, but definitely worth it if you're planning to like be there for a while. At least like find one place with a washing machine. And I think it was I've never seen this before, but it was a combo washer dryer. Never heard of it. But the dryer that we used, quote unquote, was just air drying. We let it outside and they smelled pretty good. They washed it pretty nicely. So yeah, I would totally recommend that, especially with backpacking. You're kind of going all over the place. So like, pack lightly. I think I also bought a lock for my backpack. I also bought a microfiber towel, which I didn't use, but still useful if you need it, especially if you're staying in like hostels and stuff. I feel like, if you're really, really backpacking, like I think I still had like a glorified backpacking trip with like fancier stuff. But if you're really backpacking with like, let's say 7 outfits and going to hostels, you definitely need a microfiber towel. And also, I would say, if you can, like bring flip-flops for the shower. I have major ick, when I have to shower barefoot in a new place. Granted, in a new place. So don't forget your coat. Don't forget your flip-flops. And honestly, just like try to see if you need to book ahead for things. Because, also in Amsterdam, we were trying to do like a boat cruise, a boat tour. Those were also booked out. So I think like the kind of things where a lot of people will be, like gathering, I would say book those in advance. But yeah, that was my first week. I'm really excited to talk about the cruise too. I could go on and on. Like I could make a whole 2-hour episode on this, but I probably won't. But stay tuned for the next episode for part 2 of Europe. Such a great time. So beautiful. Like, I'm such a big traveler, and this was by far one of my favorites. Like, I was blown away by just everything. So yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or more things you want to talk about for Europe, more tips for me for next time, because damn well this is not going to be my first and last time in Europe. Like, I'm going to be back, but any tips for me, let me know. I would love to hear it. So, yeah, that wraps up today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a very great weekend, and I hope this weather gets better. Happy August. It's almost fall, but we're not going to talk about it. All right, I'll talk to you guys next time.